And we're live! Welcome to another Wargamers Hangout. I as always, am Codex Dan, here with... Introduce yourselves.
Miranda, Wargamer Girl, with our lovely special guest, Chrissy Dubois.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction. Appreciate it. Yep.
So today we're talking about, what are we talking about today, Dan?
The Malifaux!
And everything Malifaux. All things Malifaux.
Alright, so just to start... Okay, so for my background in Malifaux is... Well, there's no background, but basically I have played once when I was at Adepticon. It was a lot of fun, and I played with Mario, and I got the taste for it, and it was just like cool. And I was like, man, this is neat with the cards instead of the dice, and I was like, cool. And then more recently, I played on Vassal with Mario again, and then and now me and Miranda are part of a Vassal league that we got roped into. My Mario's like, you gotta play, and we're like, okay.
I think we all got the same. I think we all got the same sales pitch.
So that's my background in Malifaux. 2 games, one on table, one on computer. But
awesome.
I've had a lot of fun both games. Like, it's been great. One, I smashed Mario. The second one, I kind of got smashed by him. So, but I had a blast both times, and I learned a lot. So it's cool enough mechanics that it's keeping me interested. So that's good. And so I look forward to playing more.
Yeah, the mechanics are completely different than anything else out there, and smashing Mario is always a good thing. I totally back that up.
And I have models now.
Hey, got some stalkers.
Yeah.
You can never have too many stalkers.
It's true. That's why this is the second box. Well, I got the standard box of Sonia, which is this lady with like this metal mask on her, and then she lights things on fire, and when things are on fire, she can shoot through walls at them. And then you have just a bunch of little witchlings which explode and do damage and hit people and light them on fire, and so it's just really funny.
Yeah, she's a bit of a pyro.
Excellent.
Her avatar is pretty cool, too.
Yeah, it's like shooting flames down, right? She's like up and shooting a big...
flying and...
Yeah. I have it. It's in a box somewhere. I haven't built it or anything. It's metal, so I'm kind of like... Eh.
Wait, what's an avatar?
Oh dear, Avatar. Well, in...
That movie with blue people. Okay, so...
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Avatars in 1.75.
Uh-oh. Someone's listening in the background.
Not me.
Never.
Anyways, okay. What's 1.7, 1.5, something?
Yeah, 1.7 in 1.75 is when they came out with avatars, and they, in my opinion, they were kind of overpowered. They weren't. I just don't think they were very balanced. And if someone was going to play an avatar against you, you were just going to get annihilated. I never played with any avatars, but I had played against them, and then they were going to update them with the new 2nd edition, but I think that's been kind of put on the back burner. So basically, at this moment, avatars are, not usable in game. Unless you're playing 1st edition.
But they look
From
cool.
what I understand, the avatars are basically just when your regular master kind of goes Super Saiyan on everybody, and they,
right.
I guess, some kind of ritual, and then they become super powered and yell Kamina, and they get the awesome additional powers. Plus, the models are just real cool. They're more diorama-like.
Right.
Pandora is just like this whole madness thing going on, and
they have like. Right, scenery going on with them, right? And you're absolutely right. That's kind of like the key point of all that of avatars is basically your master in game. When they do certain things during the game, they basically are powering up, and every time they do one of those things that are on the list, after they've achieved those things, they have the option to become their avatar form, and then they would come out as a basically bigger, better model that would just smash everything.
What she said.
Yeah. what Miranda said too.
It sounds like, well, what I hear about the first editions of Malifaux, they're just crazy, extremely overpowered and weird, and it just made it for not that great of a game. But now with the second edition, it's a lot improved. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. It's way more balanced and simpler. The cards are more simple. In first edition, the cards were just loaded with text, and it was really hard to learn the game and to teach the game. So I definitely think that they've really simplified it and and balanced it out. It wasn't that it was like crazy OP, but there was just some crews that were too good, and there were some crews that weren't good at all, and so it's just everything's a lot smoother now, more balanced.
And for those of you, because I'm assuming there's going to be people watching who have never played Malifaux, maybe never even heard of Malifaux before. And so for Malifaux, you get kind of these cards kind of like this. Gotta bring the manual focus. But it's a very more skirmish game. There's a lot less models on the board than your kind of 40k fantasy feel, and even less than like War Machine. It's kind of I'd say on par with Infinity, with the number of models on the board.
Even less than Infinity, then. I mean, depends on what faction you play. If you're playing Rezzers, sure, I'd say that you could be closer to Infinity count, but I would probably say anywhere between 6 to 10 models, depending on what point game you're playing, but that's pretty standard. Like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, the Sonia box comes with 6 models inside of it. And then I would add probably 1 more model to that, maybe 2, depending on what schemes and strategies I had, to make it a 50-point game. So 8 is probably a good average for a 50-point game for me.
I added 3. I had 3 models. I added 3 Witchling Stalkers.
Oh yeah, well they're cheap.
I only added 2. Sorry, I only added 2.
Yeah.
So you're right.
You need those because I mean you're going to be making those. Hopefully, if you're doing it right, you should be making Witchling Stalker. So that's one of those things that you will need extras of.
All right. I don't know if this. Okay. I don't probably not have the time for it, but I'm gonna ask it anyways because it's on my mind and I forget things. So, okay. So if you have the burn-in condition on you,
right.
Like in the end phase, it expires and does damage on how much burning you have on you, right?
Right.
So if you die from burning, do you count as being burned while you die, or is it expired then you get damaged, or is it damaged then it expires?
Well, I'm not sure I completely understand the question. So you're asking if you're basically asking if it counts as like killing for a killing condition for a scheme or something, right?
Right. Like if something dies while on fire, something happens.
Right, and it doesn't.
If you die from the fire, do you count on fire when you die, just because of how the conditions work?
When you die from burning, you cannot use that model as counted as killed. It's died from a condition, and so you can't use that towards any kind of schemes or strategies. Things like Reckoning, where you're supposed to kill 2 models per turn. You couldn't use it towards anything like that. So the trick with Sonia is that she's you're meant to give things burning to kind of whittle them down to make them weaker, and then send something up small like a Witchling Stalker to explode to kill it. You do that one. It's almost dead anyways, and send it as a bomb, and that 1 point of damage will just kill him. Or Samuel takes a shot in and kills it with his gun. But that's the trick with Sonia, is that's not to kill things with burning, to will them away. To slowly eat at their health with burning, and then kill them with actually one of your models.
Or if they're burning and you kill them, then a Witchling pops up. A free one.
Yes, as long as you take that upgrade to make a new Witchling stock. I think it's a...
Why would you not take that upgrade, though?
I know, just noting that it doesn't happen automatically. You got to have that upgrade. So for the noobs that are listening.
This is true. So anyway, this is just a little bit of, for those of you who don't know, just the crew, how it works kind of thing. So I don't even know what we're talking about. Miranda, you organize this kind of. Direct us.
Oh, okay. Well, since we have a guest, let's talk about the League. Obviously, Mario kind of hoodwinked us all into it. I'm just going to keep throwing him under the bus for the remainder of this.
Mario.
The thing that we're doing, for anybody who's hopefully kind of already familiar with Malifaux, it's a really cool, it's a very interesting game, low model count, very special rules heavy, so there's a lot of memorization involved, but the aesthetic is really attractive to a lot of apparently ladies, in addition to just general players. But steampunk, horror, like Victorian horror kind of style going on. Very, very cool. But Mario put together this Vassal League, and for those of you not familiar with Vassal, that is the online, what is it, system to mimic have gameplay, and they have it for War Machine, but Weird actually supports Vassal, don't they, Christy?
Yep. Yeah, they've, one of their employees, his name in a Weird place is Rodent Mastermind, but on the forums he's known as Ratty. He's worked for Weird for a long time. He does lots of amazing things for the company, and he's completely responsible for redoing all of the Vassal, the boards, everything. I mean, everything you see in there that, when you click on it, you've got tokens and ski markers and, cute little things that you could add to the board. That's all him. They've spent a lot of time making it, making it something that people want to use. If you look at any of the other...
I'm sorry.
That's totally awesome, because when I did play, I was like, wow, this is really well made. Somebody spent some time to do that. And knowing that it was Weird who did it, that's amazing.
Yeah, they want people to play.
Because you have a game that's still growing, and Albuquerque, there's like 2 people I know who play Malifaux. Nobody lives close together, so having the online option to play probably helps the game like immensely.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that Weird could be greedy about and say, no, we don't want people to play on this. We want you to go out and buy the book and buy the models and buy everything that goes with the game, but instead they don't. They put money into something where you don't need anything other than a $15 rulebook and a $9 arsenal deck for your cards to play. That is all you need to play Vassal. To know the rules and have the cards for your models. You have the option, I think it's a great option as well, to go on and be able to try out a new crew. So you don't want to invest in the models just yet. You don't want to proxy things. You can actually go on Vassal, hire any crew you want and give it a shot. As long as you have the card. So I think it's just a great option for people who, like you said, who don't live close together, or you just don't get to get out as much. You don't get to your go to your local game store as much.
Well, and I mean, this league wouldn't be possible. We've got 40 people, I believe, playing, and literally it's coast to coast. Well, no, we have Europe too. So
yeah,
I mean, it's
international. Yeah.
We even got people from Canada.
Canada, even. I know, right?
But yeah, no, it's very cool. So, and I mean, we've got like much to my disadvantage, but we've got like some of the best players in the world playing in this league. So
really?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. One of the guys that I played at Adepticon, I played in the Story Encounter tournament, and I was doing really well actually in the tournament until I got to the 3rd round. And then I believe the guy's name is Craig Brooks, and I think he is from Canada as well. Don't quote me, but I think he's from Canada too. And he just killed me in this game. Like it was like the best. I literally sat there in awe while he danced around the board, denied me every victory point that I could have gotten while getting max victory points himself, and damn near tabling everything that I had. Like just killed everything. And afterwards, I just like shook his hand and was like, "Holy crap! Like that was amazing! Like wow, And I'm scheduled to play him again, so I get to have my butt kicked all over again in Vassal by the same guy that beat me at the time. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that a game has that as well. Is that you can play super well, and all of a sudden you just like meet someone who has that skill and planning and is able to utilize a crew like that, and you're like, wow, I have so much more to learn and so much more to discover in this game. And I like that depth to a game, which is really why I've always loved War Machine once I started playing it. But now maybe Malifaux as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the thing is that I think that the biggest advantage you have in any game, really, but in Malifaux, that you know your opponent's crew. You know what they do. That's a huge thing. I was totally surprised. He played Mei Fang, and I hadn't played against her in 2nd edition, only in 1st edition, and a lot had changed. And I didn't know what I was going up against, and I just kind of moved everybody forward very stupidly. And she's wicked fast, and she has these rail workers, and she can just like jump through them. And get all this free movement by bouncing from rail worker to rail worker. And I mean, in the beginning of round 2, he was engaged with 3 of my models, no problem, and I was pretty much done for. But yeah, like knowing the crew and, you never know what you're going to meet. People kick my butt all the time.
Yeah, that's always the fun way to learn. And it's honestly the best way to learn, even though it's so hard to lose often.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Those are always like a rude awakening.
Well, if you can get over the soreness of it, or just like, I hate it, because with a war game, with any kind of war game, it's a strategy game, so you can feel kind of dumb for losing. You're like, oh man, that obvious thing. Now, I did notice with Malifaux, much like War Machine, is there's a lot of gotchas in it. So you can have some kind of technique, for example, Pandora, where she's like, oh, well, I'm going to trigger a willpower duel against you, but since I have these other models near you, if you lose it, not only do you take a point of damage from her, but like every other dude around, and you cannot realize that you're getting completely whittled to death one at a time with this little gotcha thing because you didn't know. And so there's where a lot of memorization comes into it, which is why I'm only going to play 2 masters through this league and just focus on learning them. So.
I'm playing one. You don't know who I'm going to play. Who knows?
It's a mystery.
Might be this woman with a metal mask with lots of little exploding javelins running around. But it may not be. Who knows?
Who knows? It's a mystery. Everybody knows I play Guild, and everybody knows that I used to play Colette. That's like really not a secret. I used to play Colette, and from the Arcanist faction. And since they changed her, I haven't gone back to her because she was in a beta for a long time. And I was in the beta. I could have played her, but she changed so frequently. I just kind of shelved her for a while. So now I just play Guild, but I play Lady J, Perdita, and Sonia. Well, not Sonia well. I don't play her well at all, but I play Lady J and Perdita pretty solid. So. Yeah, I'm just playing Guild in the Vassal League.
Chrissy, do you mind maybe explaining a little bit of who you are and what your role is in the Malifaux scene?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I just started out as a crazed fan back in 2010. That's when I got into the game, and then my ex-husband became a henchman for the company. So I was helping him run tournaments and, play days and things like that, and then he kind of fell out of it a little bit, and I kind of just picked up where he left off, and I started, I applied to become a henchman and started running events. And then when I looked online and I saw a bunch of forums and stuff, and this was during the beginning of the announcement of 2nd edition, so everybody was, it was a little rough there for a while. There was a lot of angry people out there, and all the forums and the Facebook groups were all filled with a bunch of, negative people and people that were upset about the changes. And so I made a Facebook group called A Weird Place. And at first it was just a group for my locals, mainly. I just wanted a place where I could talk positively about the game that I liked. And it pretty much exploded. I became friends with some of the people from Weird, some of the staff members from Weird. And one of them, Eric tweeted, actually, a big tweet about A Weird Place, and I had hundreds of ads within a couple of days to the group, and now we're almost at 2,000 members.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a very active group.
It is a very, very active group, and it's, a place for you to come and discuss any and all things weird. And the biggest rule of the group is just, you can't be a jerk. So everybody
That's
is really...
Weird spelled W-Y-R-D.
Correct. Yeah, and if you Google A Weird Place, it'll come up with a website, also a link to the group. It'll come up with a link to the Wargamers Consortium page. It's not hard to find at all. But yeah, it's a great place to talk about Malifaux in a positive way, and post pictures of your painted minis and things you're working on and get feedback. And
yeah, I think
that's
that's
actually an excellent thing to mention. The miniatures are very interesting in this game. Like their new reissues have been. I'm just gonna interrupt you, Dan.
Go for it. Let's talk about the miniatures.
Because they're really quirky, and it's another thing. I know it was mentioned. I think even in the Weird Facebook earlier about like why do so many girls play this game, and it's like Colette is a fantastic example. She's like this showgirl, this really cool looking model with like her crew of what the heck are they? The
performers and corphies, mannequins.
Yeah, the choreography, the mannequins, yeah. And so it really captures the imagination as a model. The little mechanical doves and...
Right. That was the crew that drew me in, was Colette. That was, I mean, I didn't even have any interest in playing this silly game when my ex-husband showed it to me. He was like, you know, don't you want to play? And I said, no, I don't want to play this at all. And he said, but you can paint them. And I looked at the Colette box and I said, you could paint them? I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of fun. I guess I'll paint them. I was like, you want to buy them? I'll paint them for you. And then 6 months later, I was, you know, obsessed. I fell in Malifaux love.
And then you have the lore, so then you're wanting to read about, like, well, what's Colette's story? What is going on here? And then, oh, what are the Outcasts doing? What are the Neverborn doing? Like, what is crazy math going on? And I don't know. It's a real interesting world. Yeah, the fluff is really great. I am not a fluff person, unfortunately. I'm so bad. I haven't read all the stories. I don't keep up on it as well as I should. But that a lot of people are, you know, they play the game because they love the story that goes along with it.
Me either, Chrissy. I don't read any fluff. I'm the worst.
But so they have entire tournaments around story campaigns, and that actually is pretty original. I don't know a whole lot of war games that really do that. And so, and I haven't played in any of those story encounters, but there's specific rules for it, and I guess you're building your character from game to game. So, right. What's your experience with the story encounters, Christy?
It was the first story encounter that I had played in, and it's very different. They give you a packet, and each game that you play has a pre-written scenario or story that kind of goes with it, and then it forces you basically to play out of your playstyle comfort zone because you're doing different things. You're not just running for your objectives and your VP. You know, one of them was like the snake oil salesman, and there was like this marker in the middle of the board and 2 more on either side of it. And the goal was to get to the marker on either side and get the marker and carry it to the center. And you were dropping it in there. But there were specific rules for dropping it, moving with it, you know, certain things. And it really makes you think about everything. But then you still have your schemes and strategies that you have to focus on as well. So, I mean, it just gives you one. I mean, anybody who starts out with Malifaux, it's a little hard to focus on 2 schemes and a strategy, plus keeping yourself alive, and then you add one more, you know, huge fluffy story with this extra thing that you have to do, and it gets to be kind of tricky. But it's fun. Like it tells a story with the game, and you know, incorporates it into it. I had a great time. It was so much fun.
So I think that's a really cool aspect because it's even bringing in role playing. And I loved Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and the Iron Kingdoms campaign. Like, getting to roleplay a character is really quite a lot of fun. So being able to do that on a micro level, kind of, because it's just for that one event, but kind of like playing a one-shot tabletop, or what is it, role-playing game. But,
yeah. I feel I played a game last night, and my friend he plays Ramos, and I play a mixture of guild. But you know, when we're going back and forth, we like act out the little parts. Well, you know, the spider swarm, he comes up with sea claws, and he goes chink chink chink, you know, and we're like acting out and making sound effects to the things that we're doing, and we're like, no, wait, he dodges, he's Matrix style dodging, you know, and we're going back and forth and stuff, and it's almost like, you know, watching a little show happen as we're playing. Like it's easy to get into the game and enjoy watching it when all that's going on. So it just makes it that much more enjoyable.
Just like naturally cinematic as you play.
Oh yeah, I was doing Matrix style dodging, so.
We'll have to get that on video sometime.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the plan. We plan on recording soon. So with Miranda.
Battle reports, you have some special effects going on, like bullet time with your model, like
yeah, all the time. Some special effects in between is all of a sudden like stopped and like we go. It could be all kinds of fun.
Fantastic idea. Yeah. That one, and if each battle report wouldn't literally take 6 months for it, I would do it.
Yeah.
So there's really not a lot of battle reports online for Malifaux, is there?
No, not like there's some written battle reports. You can find those on the weird forums. A lot of people write up their games, but I don't feel like there's a lot of other options as far as, learning how to play Malifaux, tutorials, videos. And there definitely could be more battle reports. There could be more of all that. I've never written a battle report in my life, ever, and I want to get into it. I just don't really know where to start. But I plan on recording some YouTube tutorials with Miranda and also Chung. We're going to do a how to play Malifaux and do a couple of recordings. I don't even know what I'm getting myself into, to tell you the truth. I'm just like, sure, I'll do it. Sign me up.
It's a lot of fun, Chrissy. Being on camera, just being yourself, and sharing what you love, man. It's awesome.
Yeah,
so
that's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan. I'm pretty much just along for the ride. I'm down for doing anything that promotes the game in a positive manner and brings more people to love it. That's what I do it for.
If I lived in California, I'd come over and make some videos with you.
Hell yes. Thank you. That would be awesome.
I'm in California, but I'm just going to pluck you from there, Chrissy. And...
Yes, and I will gladly let you pluck me from here. I've never been to Mexico.
There's a video in the works and planning for a how to play anyway. I don't know how much in the way of battle reports just yet, but it will probably at least include one. So
yeah.
That's probably about another month or so out. It should be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Let me know when you're thinking so we can better plan this out. And I
can pluck you properly from California.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'm excited.
Me too.
Wait, Chris, you're in the Sacramento area?
I am. Well, I just moved from Sacramento. I live now in Rescue. It is about an hour east of Sacramento, going towards South Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're if you're heading towards Nevada, that's the direction I live. But it's not. It's just an hour east of Sacramento. So it's basically Sacramento.
Okay.
How close are you to Las Vegas?
I am 9 hours from Vegas. I know because I drove there for Las Vegas Open this year.
Ah, that's right.
That's dedication.
That's by Frontline, isn't it?
Frontline Gaming. Yep. Reese runs. Yep, runs Las Vegas Open. It's in the works for me to run Malifaux next year at Las Vegas Open. So.
Very nice. They have some fantastic gaming mats, which my next battle report will be shot on, because those mats are amazing.
They really are. Their terrain and their mats were fantastic. And then they gave, I believe that they gave people the option to buy the mats that they had on the tables at a discounted price.
From the tournament?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They were gorgeous.
I got two of them. They're out of town right now at someone's house, and I don't have no way to get them immediately. They're driving an hour and a half. So hopefully I'll get them soon. I'm excited.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty solid. So let's take some comments, because people were commenting earlier, and we should, this being a live show, we should interact with our lovely community who are being so nice to watch us. Hi, everybody, including Desert Links AZ, Arizona, I guess. Haven't seen you before. So Patrick Alice, can you explain the Vassal a bit more, where to sign up, how to make it work, the basics? So does anybody here actually know a whole lot about Vassal? Because I literally just downloaded it to do this league. And
yeah, what was the actual question? I didn't quite make out everything.
Just explain it a bit more, what is it, how does it work?
Oh, yeah. Well, from the beginning, if you go to the Wargamers Consortium page, the website, and you click on Malifaux, you'll find a tab for Vassal in there, and there's everything you need to download Vassal, including a Vassal cheat sheet, which gives you all the hotkeys for running through Vassal, which makes learning the game a lot easier. Vassal is an online gaming system where you can play war games and miniature games online. And so you get a virtual board, and it's just like you would have your regular Malifaux board. You have your ski markers that you place out. You define all what your terrain is, what the height is, if it's severe, if it's hazardous, and you get your board set up just the same. And you choose your models from a little drop-down menu. You move them over, and from there it's pretty much the same thing. You don't use your cards. The only thing you use in front of you is your cards for your crew. So. The cards for your that's them. The cards for your models, and that's pretty much it. It works the same exact way, except for you have a drop down menu or a little box that you open up to actually do everything. So
yeah. So basically, what you do is you find the pictures, and there's all these tabs, and you put them on. It's like 2D map, right? So you find all the pictures of all the things you do, and you place them down, and they act as little basically nodes, or actually individual, actual models. And then you can select them, and you can measure from them in like a bubble. You can show like how many inches around, see if you're in range of stuff. So it kind of puts a shadow down to check inches. You use the arrow keys to turn you, or like turn little bits, and you press forward, you'll move an inch forward, kind of thing. So it's really easy to get exact measurements moving around, and you can zoom in pretty close to see if someone is in that reach or not, or whatever. So you can play War Machine on it as well. It's really well made. It's just it takes a little longer to play, and it's not as cool as having the models on the board, obviously.
Right.
That's the only reason why everyone doesn't play it all the time, right?
Right. And the only thing I think that's hard for me is the movement. Nothing feels like you're moving exact measurements. Like when you're holding out your measuring tape, you can tell how far you're moving. Sometimes in this, it's just really hard to tell. Like, did I actually move 5 inches? Did that one little nudge, how much distance was that? It's really hard to tell sometimes. That's the only thing that I think is, a little bit hard to figure out is the movement of the game. But I was going to mention while you were talking about that, if you also go to the Wargamers Consortium site, there are links there that one of my good friends, Douglas Lesavoy, he's from SoCal, he made 3-part series YouTube videos of how to Vassal Foe, how to play Malifaux and Vassal. And they're interactive. He's got, notes up, and he shows in-game play, moving models back and forth, how to hire your crew. I highly encourage anybody who's interested in, taking a look at Vassal before they even download it. Just go check out his YouTube videos because they're amazing.
I'll grab some of those links and put it in the video description after the live show.
Perfect.
Excellent. So Dan, since this is the first week of the league, and you and I are going to actually have our first battle after this.
That's right.
Which should be interesting to watch us kind of noob it up. The interesting thing about Vassal, and it's a little odd, at least with the Malifaux module, is you can go in and just watch other people's games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So don't be shy if you get in there.
Yeah, you can make the rooms private, but yeah, if you don't make the room private and you leave it open, anybody can just jump on in and watch your game. You can invite your friends in to check it out. And I know even at one point, I don't remember the program, but there's a program that you can use to stream it live. So you can stream your Vassal game live. Twitch, something like that? Twitch, yep.
Twitch.
I don't remember what it's called, but I can find out. I can look into it.
You could probably stream it through YouTube as well. Just use the program to, So maybe something possibility of doing, but probably not overly exciting to watch. Maybe, who knows? Depends. If you guys demand it enough, maybe we'll do it.
Yeah, it just depends on who you have watching, because if you're playing against your friends, sometimes the smack talking can be fun to watch, and you can get all your friends in there, and everyone's it's kind of like a little party. It's like, doing a Google Hangout. Instead, you're just watching a game of Malifaux.
That's true.
Yes.
Well, cool. So, for just a little bit more for those who don't play Malifaux, it's what you do is you have each model activates it's like there's alternating activations. And so you set up your crew of how many models, like your 5 to 8 models or whatever, and then they do the same. And then, or do you alternate when you deploy as well?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you alternate when you deploy? Or, on the board, like when you set up?
One person deploys all their models, and the next person deploys all their models.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay. Yeah. But once you start playing, once you have, and you roll for, or you flip for advantage every turn. Whoever has advantage gets to activate the first model.
Right.
Which can be really helpful, because if you, okay, so you activate your first model, then another person chooses their first model to activate, and then you choose yours until one person runs out of models, then the other person activates the rest of his, and then you flip for advantage again, and then you start again. And so it's a little bit different. It would be hard to keep track of who's activated if it got bigger. But as it is skirmishy, it's okay. You can remember pretty easily who's activated. Like sometimes they might get a little confused, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, I think.
Which I did recently learn that in Vassal it does slightly color code your model as each one activates. So track of it a little better there.
Right.
Yeah, like I played like games like Uncharted Seas or Dystopian Wars, which is the same thing, but you can have a whole lot more guys, and you can get confused real easy. That's why the mechanic is still, it works, but it just doesn't work as well as with a smaller base game. So I like how Malifaux works that way.
Right.
Okay. Random reasons to love Malifaux. Go. Why do you love Malifaux? Like, just what comes to your mind?
The miniatures, the art, the way that the models look. Even for the metal models, they were great sculpts, in my opinion. And now I'm spoiled in the plastic, but that's what got me into it, was the hobby and the models. I think that they're all just really unique looking from anything else that I've seen as far as miniatures go. And then, you know, I love the game. I love the dynamic of the card. I like the card flips. I'm not really interested in rolling a handful of dice.
It's so much fun though, but no, it's true. The flipping is neat. Okay, so again, for those of you who don't understand, basically you have a deck of cards, which is basically equivalent to a normal deck of cards with jokers, but you have your own suits, your own 4 suits, and they all do different things depending on the cards. If they flip, it's kind of like a crit or something like that.
Here, I'm gonna pantomime this for you, Dan, while you display
Okay.
your deck of cards.
And now I'm gonna focus on you. There we go. You're big. Okay. So you have your 4 suits, and then there's 2 ways to look at the cards. One is, you know, their actual face value from like 1 to 13, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then here's how many cards are in deck, right?
Yeah, and then your
equivalent of, you know, 2
Joker is 14.
Or okay, yeah. And then so there's the actual face values, you know, 1, 2, 3, or whatever, and when you roll off against each other, or those numbers come into play. But then there's also a way to look at it is either low, medium, or high, right?
Weak, moderate, or severe.
There you go. Weak, moderate,
or severe. Y'all wrong.
Right? And so the actual Malifaux decks have it noted, so that's nice. But if you just have a normal deck of cards, it can also work if you remember. So when you roll, like when you flip for damage, instead of rolling a die, you flip that, and it's either, you know, severe, moderate, or whatever damage. But if you're like trying to hit somebody, then you like roll, you flip against their defense, and they flip in turn, and it's how much you beat them by or how much you fail. Well, if you fail, you fail. But if you beat them by a lot more, then you hit better, and then you get like a bonus to your damage flip. You get to flip 2 cards and take the highest, or you have to flip, or if you don't hit them by very much, you have to flip like 3 cards and take the lowest. That kind of thing. And so it makes it. It still adds. There's still randomness to it, but it still adds it so you can hit better or hit worse, even so it's not completely super random. Like it's.
Well,
I really like
the option. The big thing in it is you can cheat fate, so you have a hand almost like in Magic, where you can switch out cards from what you flip off the deck. If you don't like it, you can cheat it out. And the biggest variables, though, in the game, worth mentioning, would probably be our lovely jokers.
Right. Yep. The black joker is equivalent to no suit and 0.
Right.
You're screwed.
Well, it's not an auto fail. That's, I think, a common misconception. That it's not auto fail. It's just equivalent to 0. So if your opponent flips a lower card and your duel total is still higher than theirs, and they can't cheat it up, then you still might win that battle. That duel just depends on, you know, what they flip. And then the red joker is 14 in any suit that you want.
Right. It usually means that you win if you flip that. So. Well, I should say, not win the game.
Yeah, well, it's not even an auto win for the duel. It's like I said, it's 14 plus whatever you flip, and it's 14 plus whatever your cast is or whatever you're shooting with, and if the other person has some kind of like buffer on them. I can think a lot of times when I've given Perdita a +2 to her defense, and she's defending with a 9 instead of a 7, and then I flip a 13. You know what I mean? Even if the other person has a red joker for 14 and they're casting at a 5, whatever it may be, I can still win that. It's still not an auto win, but I would say like it's really damn close. Like you flip the red joker and you're like, yes, yes.
What about for damage though? Now it used to be back when I was playing with Joey last year, you flipped like an additional card with what the red joker did.
Right. Right.
Is
Now,
that still the case?
no. Now, if you flip the red joker for damage, it counts as severe damage plus weak. So you add your severe damage plus your weak damage, and you dish that to them together. So.
Okay, so it's just a kind of hard number.
Right. So a lot of times you're doing, 5 to 8 damage depending on what model you're using. It could be pretty devastating to flip a red joker on damage.
And every turn you reshuffle everything, right?
Every turn you
yes.
do a ritual discard and reshuffle, and there's some characters that give you the ability to pull out an additional card and stuff like that. What was the other thing I was going to mention about it? One of the interesting things about this game, especially coming, Dan, you understand, from War Machine, is that you don't really one-round characters. You don't just have like your big tough dude go out there and then you just like gets completely exploded by some other big character that comes up. It's actually kind of hard to kill a miniature in this game. So your dudes have endurance. They have last. They can take a hit, and there's a lot of things that reduce damage. And then we should probably talk about the Soulstone mechanic here in a minute. But it does change it because you have, like you're saying, 6 to 10 models in a game, but they'll last. Like you're not usually going to lose them all very quickly. And so it's nice because you do get a little bit attached to your characters, especially after you've spent hours painting them.
our little guys, you get attached to them.
Oh yeah.
And
well, it's not normal infantry. Like War Machine, again, I love my Winter Guard, but you get bored to tears painting 10 dudes with the same outfit, whereas these are models. So
I did a 40K commission. It was 1,000 Suns and something else. I don't remember because I don't play 40K, but I painted like 20 of the same similar looking guy. It was so boring. It was like the worst thing I ever did. I said I will never take another paint commission again because I was so bored. That's why I like Malifaux, because everybody looks different. Everybody's slightly different.
Yeah, that's cool. So, and yes, if you're on the border, it just attracts more female wargamers. I'm just gonna repeat that because you need more
That's
female
right.
wargamers.
The word game that helps you meet the ladies. They're probably all taken, but you'll meet them.
Yes. Yep. I definitely think that there's way more females that play Malifaux, than other games out there. I think it's like I said, for me, it's the models and the art. I really like the way it looks. There's a lot of most of the leaders in Malifaux are women. A lot of strong female characters. I think that's just really appealing. And it doesn't look all wargamey, you know what I mean? Like, I tried to get into 40K, and the only thing that really interested me was the Dark Eldar. I thought that they were kind of cool looking. Huh? I know nothing about it other than the way it looks. I know nothing about it. And I someone gave me a couple of, I think it's called like squads of them, and they're still sitting in a pile of metal in a dish somewhere. I probably will never do anything with them, but nothing appealed to me. When I looked at those models, I just thought, these things aren't cute. This stuff isn't fun.
That's a different thing, because it's kind of cool. Like, it's even something that 40K kind of has over a lot of games still, is you do have your mass units of infantry, and you're covering the board, and you're like, these guys are flanking over here, and this unit's moving in over here, and I've got these vehicle transports coming up the board. It can be really cool, but it's just a different style game. Like this, your skirmish, it's very small level. You're running around with crews. They're not an army. It's a game. This is game warfare, essentially. Yeah.
It is completely different. It's really hard to compare the two because they're totally different. For me, I have no interest in painting that many models. That's just so much. It would take me forever to get through those. I like to put time and love into each one, and 20 coats of one shade of color, watered down paint, blending it in. And I just couldn't do that. I couldn't take that kind of time with something like that.
Wow, that's so much more work than I put into them.
Yeah.
You fancy talk.
Yeah.
In Weird Place, the Facebook group just had an August painting challenge.
Right.
That's the main reason I stayed part of the Weird Plays group. Because I don't really play very often. Well, like at all. I play 2 games total in like a year. But I just love seeing all the different models and all the like paint jobs, and it's just like it's always interesting. And there's so many new models to me, and I don't know them all. I participated in the August challenge. Well, I almost did. Here's my crew.
They got.
I built them. I totally built them.
You had really good intentions. You intended on participating.
But here's the reason why I love Malifaux, at least with the new models that are coming out, is that their plastic is like just as good as GW plastic, if not better in some ways. Like it's super durable, super amount of detail, and it's just like yes.
Yeah.
And it also allows for more conversions, and the models are so full of character that you just, for me, I love converting stuff. Like my background is 40k orcs, and so it's just like converting, and it's just like easy mode. But like as I got into War Machine with like more stuff trying to convert, it was a lot more of a challenge. But then I look at the Malifaux stuff, and I'm like, man, I could do some really cool stuff with this and be really neat. And yeah, so I'm just kind of and also Malifaux doesn't, just like War Machine, it doesn't actually matter. Like you could play with just a token, it doesn't matter. There's no true line of sight kind of thing. So you're like, can you see them, or is there true line of sight?
No, there isn't. It's like War Machine where each model has a set height.
Right, and so you can model them up on these crazy scenic bases. As long as the base size is the same and you're not like clunking over other stuff nearby, you can play with it, right? And so you can make them as beautiful and ornate as you can, and they're still fully playable.
Yes, but I mean, if you do that, you're going to limit yourself to being able to go under things and move around the board. You know, it'll look really great. That's why I don't do any over-the-top basing. Also, it's confusing for people that aren't as familiar with the game. They think just because they see your arms sticking out behind a building that they can see you, and it's really not the case. Just because your base is big and they can see your head above something doesn't mean that they actually can see you.
But Chrissy, it's mind games.
Just screw with them as much as you can, right? Right?
Because we're not good at this game. We just play mind games.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the only thing I just discourage about doing over-the-top basing is it makes it so that getting around the board is hard. Like last night, or I should say this morning, I played a game. I played the Filthy Neverborn. Shame on me. I was bored with Guild, and so I played Lilith. And
Filthy Neverborn. What? That. You know,
sorry, no offense.
Malifaux, okay? Everyone else just invaded. So.
I know. Ugh, Filthy Neverborn. I've just been beaten by them too much, so I'm a little bitter. But I played Lilith, and I painted this crew myself and based it, and they're on these like stone, like broken pillars, and this Nephilim's like coming off the side, and he's taller than he actually should be, and he didn't fit under anything, and I was just constantly trying to like get him through the terrain that he should be able to fit through easily, but instead I'm like having to move him around stuff, and I was thinking, next time I base something, I'm going to make sure I don't base it as, you know, as obnoxious as I did in this, just so that it's easier
like
to get
proxy bases, right?
Huh?
You just put a proxy base, like you put down like an empty base beside them, or where it actually is, underneath something.
I just try to limit the clutter on the board, so I don't put any like dye or, you know, extra stuff. It's, yeah, I'll just base it smaller next time. Problem solved.
That works too.
Problem solved.
Looks like Mario's joined us in the chat.
Hey.
Hi, Mars. We were just talking such nice things about you earlier.
All good things. All good things.
All good things. Don't watch this later.
They're wonderful things. Don't watch.
All right. So for those of you who are still wondering, aha. So
hey, Christine,
autofocus enabled. Da-na-na-na.
Oh.
Boom. All right. So this is like an example of one of the cards. I'm gonna focus a little bit more. Aha. Okay. So you basically, these little dots right here are like the hit points it has, and so as you get hurt, you fill them in, and you can wipe them off or whatever. And then you have your, help me out here.
Yeah, you have your defense. So defense 5, willpower 5, WD is your wounds. walk, charge, and height. And so that's basically like your little stat line there, and then the dots represent how many wounds you have. At the top, it tells you what you are. It also tells you what your characteristics are. You're a minion, you're living, and you're a witch hunter. So minion would be a model that can do schemes on the board. They can drop scheme markers, they can interact with scheme markers, and they can actually be a productive part of your crew towards winning. It's a living model, so it's important to know that. It would drop a corpse marker if it was to be killed. And it's witch hunter characteristic, which in Sonia's crew, sometimes they get bonuses off of that title. So witch hunters can do certain things. Below that would be your abilities, and those are things that are free to you. They're just there. They happen all the time. Explosive demise is basically saying that when models are within a 2-inch aura of another model, they suffer 1 damage when this model is killed. So it's like a little bomb that blows up when he dies. And does damage to everything around him. So it's really good if you think he's going to die. Run him up into a group of your enemy models and let him explode onto everything. Searing mark. All models damaged by this model gain burning 1 condition, which is great. So the idea is to get the witchling stalkers out there, give things burning, and then Samuel can come in and shoot them through terrain and and get bonuses and things to the burning condition. The DF with the little mask symbol next to it is a defensive trigger that happens when you get the mask suit on a defensive duel. This is called Draw to Pain. So after failing an opposed defensive duel, but before suffering damage, you push this model 4 inches towards the attacker. So you failed the duel, you took the damage, but after you take that damage, you get to get pushed towards the attacker. So, I know. Yep. So those are just some cool free things that he always has. And then the back of the cards, these are your abilities that you can use your action points towards. He has attack actions. Some of the cards will actually say tactical actions underneath of it too. He has a 1-point ability for Shattered Ruined Blade. It's basically his melee attack. He's hitting with a 6, which is a pretty strong melee. Obviously, he's more of a melee model than a shooter. The RST is resist, so it goes against your enemy's defense. And the range with the little claw mark is a representation for melee 1. So you need to be within 1 inch of your enemy to do this ability. The target suffers 2, 3, 5, which is what we were talking about earlier, where weak, moderate, and severe damage. And then if you get the feather on your duel total, you can get this trigger that happens after doing damage. And it says after damaging, the target must discard 1 card. So you're basically taking away their resources. And then, let's see. It's not on you, Dan.
No.
Talk. There you go. Back on you. The Witchling Stalker also has a pistol. Like I said, it's a 1-point ability for this, but his shoot is not very solid. He's shooting with a 4 and a ram's head built in, and it goes against defense. The RG is range. It has the gun symbol, and it's a 12-inch shot. The target suffers very minimal damage, 1, 2, 3, and that little explosion symbol is a blast marker. When it does severe damage, it does 3 damage to the target, and then you can put a 50mm blast marker touching its base and hopefully touching another of its friendly model's base so that you can do damage to it as well. And then you would damage it at 1 less, taking the weaker damage. I believe it's 2. The card's not on you anymore, Dan. Talk.
Hello.
There you go. Woohoo! And then the trigger off of that, which is really great. So the ram's head is built into his SH attack, so he already has that in there. But if he flips a tome or a book, he can get that trigger that says after damaging, the target also gets burning 1. So more burning, yay, just light everything up.
Wait, so if you hurt them and you get the book, because it says on the front, it says if you damage them, they get +1, right?
Yep, so now you've got burning 2 automatically. So you're stacking that up, and you've now got burning 2 if you get that trigger off as well. And then the last thing would be his cast action. It's called Dispel Magic. It also costs 1 AP. You're casting it with a 5 and a ram. The target number is 8, a ram, and a book. So you have to make sure that you flip a tome on this to get this off. It goes against your opponent's willpower, and it has a range 12. And it says end 1 condition on a target model. So anything that's listed as a condition, like burning, you can go ahead and basically end that. So if one of your friendly models has burning, you can just say you don't have it anymore.
So get rid of all the burning?
1 condition. So I believe it would just take away the burning altogether, because it doesn't say remove it minusing by burning 1.
Right.
I believe it just takes the burning off altogether.
Now, it looks really intimidating, like all those crazy symbols, and you're like, ah! Like it really does at first. But after a few minutes with the rulebook and going over stuff, it actually is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's a lot of memorization. But it might be worth just bringing up our lovely suits, too, which is why you use cards. You've got, I'm just going to reference my favorite card deck, which is the Through the Breach one. So what is it? Masks, Feather, Raven?
It's crows or feathers.
Crows.
Yeah.
Masks, crows, rams, or tome.
Right. And tome. Yeah.
And each of the factions kind of has a preference to one of them, generally. But
yeah. Like Rezzers use the feathers, you know, and Arcanists often use tomes and masks, just depending.
It seems like Neverborn favors masks quite a bit too.
They do, yeah. The Lilith crew had some masked triggers, so yeah.
But it's cool because every time you flip a card, you have additional benefits based on the type of suit, in addition to just the numerical value of your card. So it might even be worth cheating in something, even if you've already met the number, in order to get the suit that you want, in order to make a trigger effect. So.
Miranda, can you just briefly explain cheating?
Cheating. Okay, that's whenever you play against Dan. In War Machine, and he like takes the measuring tape and he's like, I'll put the model in front of the edge of the measuring tape. Okay.
You noticed that I do that?
No. Dan doesn't cheat. I just give him crap all the time. Like my brother. Anyway, so in Malifaux, again, you have your deck of cards, and you have your hand, usually 7 cards at the beginning of each round. And you have the rest of the deck face down, so when you do a competitive duel, you and your opponent will both flip a card from the top of the unknown deck. You'll flip it over, and whatever you get has to beat your other opponent. Now, whoever has the lower number of those two has the choice to cheat fate, which is where they can take a card from their hand to replace the card that was pulled from the deck. And each person can only cheat once. So if they cheat and win now, they're in the winning position from being on the losing end of the duel, then the other person has the opportunity to cheat as well, just from something in their hand. Does that pretty well cover it, Christy?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And so when you do cheat, you just want to make sure that, you know, you're confident with the card you're putting down, that, you know, if you're going to waste a good card, you better make sure that they can't beat your number. So you want to cheat up as high as you can if you don't want this to go off. So yeah, that's right on. You got it right on the head.
What I think is interesting too is that there's times where you want to cheat even though you're still going to lose. You want to increase your value so you don't lose as much, and so their damage isn't buffed or anything. Like, don't get to flip more, and so they have a negative damage flip kind of thing.
Right, exactly. Like you were talking about earlier, the difference in the numbers. So if you're losing the duel between 1 and 5, the difference between your two duel totals is 1 and 5, and it's a negative flip for damage. So you'd flip 2 cards to take the lower, and so you could cheat in a card just so that you can make them have that negative flip, so they can't cheat the damage flip. If they're flipping 2 cards taking the lower, then they can't cheat that.
And you'll also hear referenced as a positive twist or a negative twist, right?
Say that again?
People also call it a twist, right? Like the negative positive twist.
Yeah, I think it was more called that in first edition. It's not that it's not called that now. I just hear more people call it like a positive flip, a negative flip. But yeah,
it makes more sense to me.
Because in first edition, you had the ability to cheat and then twist, or twist and then cheat. I can't remember what it was. So you cheated and then you twisted, and twisted was using a Soulstone to flip another card to add to that card. So instead of replacing it, you added the 2 together. So I could be hitting you with like a 32 with a trigger, and you had to beat the number 32. So that's where the cheating and the twisting was, like you cheated and then you twisted fate, so that you were cheating from a card in your hand and then twisting and flipping another card and adding that to it.
Oh, wow. So you don't really have that anymore. You're just replacing cards, yeah?
Right, and now you can't use the Soulstone at the end. You use the Soulstone before you do anything. So it's a lot more random.
So Soulstones were one of the things that confused me whenever I was first learning about Malifaux. I'm like, what the heck? You're using Soulstone, like that's points. Like when you're like, how many Soulstones do you want? What size game do you want to play? How many Soulstones is it? So it's like a how many point game do you want to play, and that's Soulstones. But then in addition, it's a currency in the actual game.
Right.
So I guess for example, an average size game is what Dan and I will be playing tonight. Is a 50 Soulstone game, and so you think of it like 50 points. But you have like your characters, and they have like this little cache of Soulstones, because additionally, Soulstones are used in the game to enhance your flip or be spent for special abilities, I think, as well. So you can build up a list to X number of Soulstones, and then you've also got this little cache that you can pull from later in the game. Now, Chrissy, I'll let you explain it because you're probably doing a better job than me of when Soulstones would be used in the game.
Yeah, Soulstones are used for lots of different things, but when they're okay, so you can use a Soulstone to reflip initiative. That's the first thing. So I flip, you flip, I'm losing, I can burn a Soulstone to flip again, hopefully beating your card so that I can go first. So you can burn a Soulstone for initiative. You can burn a Soulstone to get a plus flip to your defense and a negative flip to your negative flip to your opponent's damage. So I would be flipping 2 cards and taking the higher for my defense, and you would be flipping 2 cards and taking the lower for the damage that you would do towards me. You could burn a Soulstone, and all of these obviously are before you do anything. So the minute you would declare your attack on me, oh, this model's going to activate, and I'm going to target Lady J. And I would say, oh, I'm going to use a Soulstone. And that's when I would do it right then. You can't say, oh, I'm going to attack you, I flip my card, my total's 15 to your defense, and I go, oh, I'm going to use a Soulstone. You kind of have to give your opponent that chance to say they want to use a Soulstone, because they could be judging whether or not they want to use a Soulstone based on what you flipped. If you flipped high, they might go, might not be worth it for me to use a Soulstone for this.
Very finite currency, so once you spend it, it's gone.
Right. And then you can use a Soulstone at the beginning of any action to declare a suit to your total, your dual total. So Lady J has critical strike for her greatsword. So it's already built in. So her ram's head is built into the dual total. So she already automatically gets 1 point of critical strike if she takes that trigger. But before I activate her, before I declare my attack, I burn a Soulstone so I can get another ram's head to my dual total, making it so I have 2 points of critical strike for each damage output. So instead of doing 3, 4, 6, I'm doing 5, 8, 8. I can't count. 4, 5, 6, and then 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Can't count. Apparently, I can't math today. But you get what I'm saying. I'm basically making my damage output insane, and so one hit from her will kill most, medium-sized things. So that's another way. And then I could use a Soulstone to get a plus flip to my attack. So if I'm attacking somebody, I can just burn a Soulstone to flip 2 cards, take the better.
Yeah.
And I could use a Soulstone for damage prevention. So if your master or your henchman gets something that caused damage to them, as soon as they take the damage, they can choose to burn a Soulstone to flip a card from the top of their fate deck and heal the amount of damage that they flip based on the card. So if they flip a weak card, they can heal 1 point. If they flip a moderate card, they can heal 2 points. If they flip a severe card, they can heal 3 points. If they flip the red joker, they can heal all.
So like to completely negate the damage that was dealt during that attack?
Yes. Yep.
That's powerful, but rare.
It is powerful, and that's why keeping your resources and knowing when to use them, is I think one of the more important parts of the game. Not burning through them in your second and third round, holding them off till the end of the third through the fifth if you can.
Here's a cool thing that I love about the Soulstone mechanic is that you have 50 Soulstones to build an army, and then your master or your caster, your HQ, your guy in charge or lady in charge, as most often, has a certain cache of Soulstones. Like Sonia has 3, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cache 3. So you start off with 3 Soulstones no matter what, and then you have, and she costs, they cost a certain amount of Soulstones too, right? Or do you just get them?
No, masters are free.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So you get your master for free, you get your cache of 3 Soulstones, and then you have 50 more Soulstones to build up an army. So it costs, I don't know how many Soulstones I think it normally costs, between like 5 or 10 or whatever. So anyways, but if you don't get exact amount of points, like in a lot of games, if you just miss out on points, then you just miss out on points. right? So if you're building up, you're like, these characters are perfect, but I have like 2 points extra, and then 50 points, you're like, 2 points, I want to fit something in there. But in Malifaux, that's 2 extra soul stones, and so they get added to your cache. And so all of a sudden you have 5 soul stones to be able to cheat and move around. And so even though you have less soul stones worth of models, less points worth of models, you have more soul stones to be able to buff them in certain ways and when it's necessary. So that's cool.
Yeah, that is that's one of the great things about the game is that you might have, let's say, 3 to 4 soul stones left, and you could very well hire possibly a small point model, but I would do that based on whether or not what my schemes or my strategies were. If we, like I keep referencing Reckoning because it's an easy one, but if we have the kill strategy for Reckoning, I don't want to give you more things to kill. I'm not going to hire one more small point model that's easy for you to pick off so that you have that kill. Instead, I'll take another upgrade on one of my other models to make them more powerful. Or, like you said, take the extra soul stones and put it towards your cache so that you have that soulstone pool going into the game. And you can take max of 7 soulstones into the game. So that, if you use those just right, you can really ration them out through all 5 rounds.
Yeah.
How many soulstones do you find yourself taking in addition to the cache that your master has?
I usually think of it as a whole, so I try to always go in with 5 to 7. I like to go in soulstone heavy, but once again, depends on your schemes. If we have Reckoning and I need more models on the board to control more table quarters, I might hire more smaller point models and not take as many soulstones, and I need to hire things that can stay back in the quarters, kind of hold those areas and outnumber the other crew. So it just kind of depends, but I try to always take 5 minimum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should explain schemes a bit.
Well, okay, so you've got strategies and you've got schemes. Now this is where the game gets a little jinkety because you're building. Okay, actually, before we get to that, I think, and Chrissy, you probably remember again better than I do, the order in which you actually set up your game. Because you pick your faction, I think, early on, but you don't actually build your crew until after you know the scenario of the game, right?
Right. So the way that you'd set up the game, and I just opened the book so that we can reference that as we go, but you define and you place your terrain. So the first thing you do is you and your opponent, you set up the board and you define everything as you put it out, declaring whether it's hazardous, severe, dense, soft cover, hard cover, impassable, things like that. The second part would be determining your encounter size. You agree that you're going to play a 50-point game. After that, you announce your factions. So I would say I'm playing Guild, and Miranda would say she's playing the Filthy Neverborn. And then you determine your deployment based on what you flip. So you flip a card, and if I believe it's 1 through 6, it's standard deployment. I could be off on that, but anyways, basically what you flip determines what kind of deployment you have: standard deployment or flank or corner. And then from there, you determine your strategy and your available schemes. So that's when you would actually flip for your shared strategy and flip for your scheme pool that you would choose from. You have one shared strategy that you're both working on individually. And then out of the scheme pool of 5 schemes, you get to choose 2. And you can choose whether, based on what that scheme is, whether you'd like to reveal it or keep it secret. Sometimes you get more victory points if you reveal it to your opponent. And so, yeah, that brings...
About the game in general would be the scenario when you're going for victory points and scheme marker points or whatever, instead of just eliminating your opponent. And there's no caster kill. You kill somebody's master, the game still continues. It even continues after if you kill all the models on the other side, because it's a set number of turns, right?
Yeah. So, you definitely can't. It is a set number of turns, but you can also, it's five rounds, but you can keep going. I believe you can go all the way up to 10. At the end of round 5, the last person who activates a model flips a card, and if it's 10 or higher, you go another round. And then you play that round, and at the end of that, you can continue all the way up to round 10. Yeah, did that answer the question? I got off track there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I was just going to interrupt it because you are picking the schemes for your strategy, and so when you're building your list, you really kind of focus on that instead of what's going to be the killingest thing on board.
Right.
Which is a problem I fall into.
Yeah.
So you pick your faction, and then you pick your schemes, and then you pick your list?
Yeah, well, you announce your faction, so it's kind of like secretive. You know, you don't really want your opponent to know. Like I said earlier, if someone told me they were going to play Rezzers, I'll be like, oh, cool, I'm playing Lady J. So if they know too far in advance, they might be pre-plotting, you know, a little sooner than they should. So then you get to announce factions, and you say, I'm playing this and this, and then you determine your deployment, and then you don't pick your schemes, you flip for them, so you know what you can choose from. And then at that point, I look at my schemes and my strategies, and I go, okay, what can I hire to best achieve these schemes or this strategy?
Right.
And I base what I hire knowing on what faction they're playing, combined with the schemes and strategies that are out there to choose from. You know, if I know that they're playing a crew that's going to shoot my face off, I'm not going to choose a scheme that requires me to go to their side of the board. I'm going to try to stay back. Try to stay away from them. Try to choose models that have long range or don't require to get engaged too much. Like it just depends. I think that's where really the biggest part of the game is being good at the game is that part right there, is hiring your models to your scheme and your strategy and your opponent's faction.
Right. And that really kind of is different again from War Machine, because you have in tournaments you just bring your list that you think will handle most of the situations you're going to run into, most of your opponents, be it whatever's the popular list or whatever, and so you have this what people refer to as list chicken situation that happens, where you can intimidate other players by just your list options. Whereas in this case, every game is kind of custom to your opponent, and so you really have less of a necessarily overpowered or one-sided game, provided everybody's competently picking their models.
Wait, so is there a limit on how many lists you can bring to a tournament? Like pre-made lists?
It depends on the tournament organizer.
Okay. But usually,
No, normally there's... Go ahead. Go ahead, finish your question.
No, yeah, one thing I'm just confused by is War Machine, you build 2 lists usually, and you go in with those 2 lists, and you're only allowed to play those 2 lists the whole day. But you have to be in the same faction. But in Malifaux, it seems like you just whatever.
You declare a faction, and you can pick from that faction.
So as long as you have the models, you have access to the whole faction in any permutation the whole tournament.
Yep, unless your tournament organizer says something different. I believe for Vassal we have a model pool of 125 Soulstones we have to submit. You have to submit all the 125 Soulstones worth of models, and then you can pick from those. But for the most part, every tournament I've ever ran, every tournament I've ever been to has been you declare your faction, and then you have all of that to choose from.
So I think that's really cool, and that's a whole different spectrum of strategy. Because obviously there's a list you practice with and you're good with. You don't want to mix it up too much, otherwise you'll just be unfamiliar with it. But if you become a real master of Malifaux, you could just bam.
That's the best part about the game, is that you have that flexibility. Like I said, I might choose to take a different model because of a scheme or strategy or based on what I think my opponent might be playing, I can have that flexibility to say, oh, no, I'm not going to take my Guild Offstringers, because I don't need that range, or I don't need that shenanigans of the movement that they do for their 2-point ability. I can hire, 2 things for melee instead, because I might need to get engaged in this round or in this game. So that's what I like about the game, is that versatility.
My mind just metaphorically tried to go out and grasp what that concept was, and I'm swimming in it. I'm just whoa.
Yeah, no, it can
that's a lot of stuff to think about. Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, brings a lot more memorization to the game as well. Nestor Medina. First comments I made about Malifaux. Wait, you don't kill everything on the table to win? No, it's disappointing. Part of the fun is the visceral action. But if you watch my game with Joy Berry, and it's the 1.5 rules, I think, in that case. But the interesting thing about that game is I table her. I kill all of her models, and we tie because she played the scenario, and I was just I'm murdering face. So, but
I'll kill all the things.
Right, it wasn't how you win.
Yeah, that's the thing is you kill everything, but unless there's like a scheme, like assassinate, like you kill their master, you get a certain number of points or whatever. Like if that's not there or whatever, then you kill everything, and they're like dropping scheme markers everywhere. You're like, I kill everything, and all of a sudden you're like, and a turn goes by, and a turn goes by, and the game ends, and you're like, well, I actually don't have any points. And you're like running, trying to pick up, because you can get rid of their scheme markers, right? If you like go beside them.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, it's just a lot of cool mechanics and stuff, and the game really intrigues me. I kind of want to, I'm trying to get more guys around here to start playing, because because I play a lot of War Machine, and so it'd be nice to just mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice to have something else.
But yeah, Malifaux, man, looks sweet. All right, we're talking for a little over an hour now, so we're at about time. Unless pressing we want to talk about.
No, I'm good. Unless anybody has any other questions or anything else we can answer.
Yeah, let's check the comments section real quick.
So since Nestor commented, that's pretty interesting. He's my very good friend. Hi, Nestor. He he came out from New York to play in my Malifaux tournament. It's kind of cool to get to meet him for the first time. He is also on the agenda to go to the UK with the Wargamers Consortium to run Infinity events over there. So hopefully that goes through, and we both get to travel to London or the London area. So kind of exciting.
Fancy.
I know.
Yeah, like John Spencer said, I've spent turns not killing stuff to get more victory points. It's so counterintuitive, but
it is hard. I mean, sometimes the kill strategy can work for people. You know what I mean? If you kill them all before they get a chance to really, achieve their objectives, then killing everything might work. Your opponent just might hate you. It's just frustrating to play against that. It's like, oh man, my model didn't even get to do anything before. You just killed it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite models in Malifaux? Killa K? Dan, you go first.
I saw Malifaux and I was like, well, these people are talking about Malifaux. Maybe I'll. And then like you and Joey played a game, and I was like, well, maybe I'll look into this silly game. I started looking through the models, and I'm like, man, these look cool. It's like, these are some sweet looking models. And then I came upon Sonia and her crew. And I saw like the purifying flame, and he was all on fire. I'm like, that guy looks sweet. And then I saw like a little witchling stalkers. The guy like hook gadgets these blades. And I'm like, man, I want to run that crew. And it looks really cool. And so, honestly, I think the witchling stalkers are my favorite model, both for looks and for gameplay. They're just like, they lived up to everything I hoped they would. But then I'm looking at gremlins, and gremlins look freaking hilarious. And,
no.
And I want to play gremlins.
They're pretty
so
awesome.
Guild start. But I'm like, but I'm starting guild, but gremlins. So I don't even know what I'm gonna do.
And the story is actually really solid with the gremlins too. Who's the awesome chick?
Ophelia?
Ophelia. Her and Perdita. That is the coolest story.
Oh my god, the two of those together. I've played a lot against Ophelia back in first edition. And it was like just, I shoot you in the face over and over again. Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah.
Shooting each other constantly. It was really fun. She's a lot of fun. I'm sure she's going to be just as amazing now, with her new stuff. I haven't played against her in second edition, so I have no idea what's happened with her, but I'm sure she's still great.
One of the things I've purchased to force my friends playing this game.
I'd have to say my favorite models, obviously, is the Colette crew. I love the Corfi, the mannequins with knives for hands. I mean, they're beautiful and like evil at the same time. I think they're amazing models, and I cannot wait for the plastic ones to come out. The metal ones were horrible to build. The arms were too small to pin, and they just kept falling off. It was terrible. But I think the plastic ones are going to be amazing, so I look forward to having new plastic Corfi.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. The Corfi look really cool. There's something about them that totally capture the imagination. And you're kind of thinking this horror kind of world where this inanimate doll mannequin thing's moving around. And I was a huge fan of Silent Hill, so apparently just a part of me loves being terrified all the time. But no, the Corfi are just really cool. Probably one of my favorite models, though, just because he has a special place in my heart, is old Teddy. I just love him. I think he's...
He wants to give you hugs.
awesome.
Teddy gives hugs.
Because I had the old metal model, and so I even sculpted a little bit of Sculpey, like a little bow to put on him.
Oh, the bow didn't come with him?
No, I made that.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
Did you get the new Teddy, the Miss Erie, the Miss? I
have it. I have the old, kind of flat, weird-looking ones. I don't like the lanky one. Like, I want him to be big and poofy.
That skinny, creepy-looking one. I think that's the Nightmare Teddy. He's not a good-looking model at all. I don't really care for him.
Yeah, part of what I like about him is that there is like a slightly cute aspect to him. Maybe it's weird, but and he's like horrifying. And he, eats you or devours you or hurts you in every way. But he's kind of cute. Like, that's what I like about it. So. Desert Lynx asks, what is a good faction to learn with? I've oftentimes heard guild is a really straightforward way to go, but what do you think?
I agree. I think that I would say Perdita or Lady J are both really solid. Perdita's solid. Like, she's good, and you don't even have to do her shenanigans or her tricks. Like, you literally could just get away with just moving and shooting. Like for the most of the crew. Nino can shoot for 36 inches. That's the distance of the board. The Ostringers can shoot for 18. So you take some Ostringers and a Nino and, everything, the other guys, they have guns and knives. But, like, it's just a really solid crew and easy to learn. So I would...
From 40K, that's perfect, right?
Yes, you just want to move and shoot things. It's great.
Yes. I did a demo game at Adepticon last year with Lady J, and she was really cool. Like, I liked the model anyway, but her playstyle was very much up my alley, so I guess why Lilith is probably a second choice here for me.
Yeah, she's very, like, I kind of, like, move her in behind cover, and then, like, just swarm. Like, everything just, all at once. That's Lady J, just get her engaged as fast as possible, because like I said, like, I can just turn around and do, like, 8 damage, 8 damage on a... It's ridiculously huge. Pardon me while I plug in my laptop before we die.
Yeah, that's what happened in my game versus Mario. Lady J came up and just like whack, whack, and I was just like, oh, oh. my master just died, and I was like, luckily, Sonia can light herself on fire, and then she had 6 burning on her.
Wow. David McKinney, how do the new plastic models feel compared with the other game system models? Outside looking in. Quality of the models, I think, of the plastics are really good. I typically have collected all the metal stuff, so I don't have a lot of experience with it. And I know go ahead.
I only have plastic models, and they're amazing. Like, they're actually super amazing.
Like, assembly-wise, they're pretty easy.
Assembly-wise, they're easy. Just use a bit of plastic glue, holds super well, and it's almost even firmer than the GW plastic. So it's almost easier to hold more detail and have, like, more, like, I don't know if you can tell here, but, like, Sam Hopkins. Okay, let me get into manual focus again. But he has, like, all these crazy little bit, like, like little tiny things all over him and hanging off of them, and I'm not even that worried about them breaking off. Like, all the things, like, hanging from, like...
There's an exception. I do find the 10 Thunders models to be terrifying. Like, very, very skinny little chains whipping around and with the models, like, in the toes, on the only thing touching their base. Like, not a fan of that.
Yeah, 10 Thunders was a 1.75 release. They were the new faction for that edition change, that edition upgrade, or whatever you want to call it. And so the plastics, in my opinion, were a little bit... They weren't as great. They were more fiddly. The plastic was a little bit harder. I felt it snapped a little bit easier, and that's why I have those 10 Thunders Archers, and I cannot tell you that they're not totally shattered. Like, all their little bow and arrows are broken. They're, those little skinny parts you're talking about, all snapped off. When you put them in a foam bag, eventually they catch in the foam, and they just snap right off. So the Ten Thunders, I think, were some of the worst to build. People will say, like, I'm trying to think, like Yonlo, that's the stories of Yonlo's beard, the tiny little beard on Yonlo's face that people always lose.
Oh, yeah, see, no. And that's
proper
a
beard.
big thing for me. Like, if you're a modeler and you're really into the painting aspect and you're putting the model in a case, then it can be as delicate as you want. But if you're putting it on a table, and if you're like me and you drop your tape measure probably a unreasonable amount of times on the table, you need models that are hardy. You just do.
Yeah.
There's so many War Machine models that are kind of chipped and stuff from play.
It's true. I do worry about the purifying flame a little bit. He's very spindly.
He's actually really durable, though. I have one sitting here on my desk, and he's been, like, knocked all over the floor. The cat's batted him around. He has all of his pieces and spikes on him still. Hasn't been broken once. He's been literally all over this room.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The plastic feels strong, like, but little bit of, I don't know, it just feels like really, really well molded plastic.
Yep, I agree.
So I think that concludes our questions for the evening. I want to thank everybody for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on. A lot of fun.
It's good to see you again, Chrissy. And we haven't talked at all since Adepticon.
Yeah, or some other convention. Gen Con, Adepticon, sometime in the future.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a funny story. Is that when me and Chrissy first met, I recognized her from, like, WGC stuff or whatever, like Facebook photos, whatever. It's like, you know, you got the blue hair. It's pretty easy to recognize. So we're talking and stuff, and I'm just hanging out with all the Wargamers Consortium thing. But I introduced myself as Dan because I had assumed in my very I just assumed everyone knew me for whatever reason. But, like, I'm known as Codex Dan, you know, in the WGC. So we're, like, talking forever, and, like, we go out and get food, and we're, like, back at the con, and we're talking about different, like, battle reports, and I'm encouraging her to make some. And then she's like, well, this Codex Dan guy, and I'm like, oh, that's me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I never actually said that was. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like that's my internet name now.
Yeah.
For so long, I was Mini Wargaming Dan.
Yeah, and I've heard of that too, but I just didn't put the two things together.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're that Dan.
So that was a lot of fun. And cons are awesome.
Yeah, I get that a lot where people are like, they know who I am. You know, kind of like, hey, you're the Malifaux girl. You're the
Blue hair on the internet.
Right, the blue hair on the internet. I get that too.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so yeah, we'll have to have Chrissy join us again because she's super awesome, and we should talk about Malifaux, especially since we're going to be in the league for five weeks, right?
Yeah, sounds right.
Hang on, I got a whole sheet here. Yeah, 5 weeks. So I guess the next time we have a hangout, maybe we'll kind of update everybody on how we're doing.
Yeah, I plan to get my butt kicked quite a bit with some good players in that league. Yeah, some really good players in the league. I plan to get schooled.
But it's good though because you can see how they play and just get inspired to play better.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's gonna be a great time. You know, I'm not crazy competitive, so I like to win. Don't get me wrong. I like to win, but losing isn't a big deal.
Yeah. Well, it can't. Especially if you want to get better, you really kind of have to be willing to take it.
Yeah. Miranda's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to smash everybody and win all the games.
Well, I do want to. I don't always, or even particularly often, but I certainly want to.
All right. Final thoughts, Chrissy?
Final what?
Thoughts?
No. Check out A Weird Place. Come play in my group. Come talk all things Malifaux. Watch everything Codex Dan on his YouTube channel and Wargamer Girl. There you go. Plug everybody.
There you go. Watch out in a reasonable period of time for my channel. I will have something cool from Malifaux.
Right.
And don't drink a lot of your chocolate milk and like tons of cookie dough. That's all that's left.
Oh.
You're a little sick.
It's okay. The size of a softball.
Sounds like a bad idea.
No, it was great. It was wonderful. I regret nothing.
I've had a great time, guys. Thank you so much.
Let's see you later. Okay, next time, guys. Hopefully 2 weeks. Anyways, I'll put up something on the schedule, so just watch this channel for future live events. All right.